Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, today there's been a crime and there's a lineup and we're trying to give alibis to the people that we know did not get the crime so we can catch the real perpetrator. Today we're going to be taking a look at a cooperative word association game called Alibis. This is from Allplay. This actually made my top 5 most anticipated games at the Origins Game Fair that just happened. Had some time to play it. Let me show you how it works. I'll see you on the other side. I just want to show off some of the art of some of the different suspects in the game. I believe the artist here, the illustrator, does graphic novels, and you can kind of feel that influence here. Really cool art on some of these perpetrators. Now those suspects are all going to get cards, word cards, as you can see here, assigned to them. And depending on the amount of players, you'll have a certain amount of these. Here there's 13 perpetrators or suspects here. And again, it depends on the amount of players that you're playing with, how many of these you put out. And there's all these different words. Now, each player is going to get 2 of these cards. They'll be secret, but you can see them here like 5 and 6. So if I have 5 and 6, I'm going to come up with a one-word clue that I'm going to write down on my board here, with a dry erase and keep it secret, that brings 5 and 6 together, like net and restaurant. And what I'm trying to do is link these 2 words with a one-word clue, making sure I'm not possibly pointing to some of these others, because all the other players also have 2 of the numbers, which means that there's one number nobody has, and that's what you're trying to find, because you're going to score points for every player that's able to guess the person that nobody has by ruling it out by guessing everyone else's, and also by having people guess yours, there'll be points as well. So let's play like a round. Let me reset this up a little bit for like a 2-player game so you can play along with me. Okay, we're pretending we're playing a 2-player game, and when in a 2-player game, and a 3-player as well, each player is going to get 2 numbers and a board, but they're going to get 2 sets. Normally when you're playing with more than 3 players, you only get 1 set, and you're basically just trying to come up with a one-word clue for 2 words. In a 2- and 3-player games, each player is going to be doing that for 2 sets of cards. So essentially, I have 2 words I'm trying for you to link with establishment, and 2 words I'm trying to link with stop. Now you'd be doing the same thing. So let's pretend that you had, let's say you had fork and comics as one of your things that you're linking together, and let's say you had candy and blackboard. So you don't have to come up with those clues, because obviously I won't know what you're writing down, I won't be able to guess it, but you know in your head that mine and the perpetrator cannot be 2, 4, 7, or 8. So from the 5 that are left over, 4 of them are the ones I'm trying to get you to kind of link to, and the one that's not is the perpetrator. So you're trying to figure out which 2 cards have to do with establishment, and which 2 cards have to do with stop. Again, these cards are just numbers. So which 2 suspects have to do with establishment, and which 2 suspects have to do with stop. So pause here, think about it, and come back. All right, so let's see how you did. You think of establishment, maybe you're thinking buildings like apartments or restaurants. Maybe you're thinking of like rogue movements like thieves. They create establishments. Sometimes establishments have nets. I don't know what you're thinking there. And then stop, that's a different type of thing as well. Like there's a lot of different things you could say there. You say stop to a dog that's running, things like that. So let's see. What did you have for establishment? Go ahead, yell it out loud. Which numbers did you have? Let's see. It was indeed 6 and 3. Yes, I was trying to link apartment and restaurant, and so I used the word establishment. Oh, nice establishment you have here. Stop. Which 2 did you think I did for that one? Well, it was 5 and 9, so it was net, and it was thief. Why? Because, well, a net is used a lot of times in safeties to stop things, like it can stop you from going off a cliff while you're skiing. Sometimes people catch you in nets, and it kind of stops you from moving. So a lot of times nets are used to stop things, and stop thief is something that you're trying to stop a thief. So I was worried that maybe this might go to dog, and so if you know that yours were fork and comics, this and this, and now you know this and this, so now we know that the perpetrator was the only one left over was dog. So if you had got both of these right, you would have gotten the perpetrator. Now, of course, you're taking notes on this throughout the game, and you're writing down, like, for example, diamond. You would put diamond on the suspects you think are the 2 ones for diamond, the 2 ones for stop, then you put a question mark on the one that you think was this. So you're basically trying to figure out what everyone else is saying and who the perpetrator is. Now, there's a way of scoring in the game, and it's called heat. Every person, once they reveal their words, if at least one other player guessed the two numbers that word was going to, you remove a heat from a pile. There's one big heat for everybody. So people are removing these as people are guessing theirs. At least one person has to guess it, and you get to remove one. For every player that guesses the perpetrator, you get to get rid of 3 heat. Now you play 3 rounds. So in the next round, there'd be all different words. You would get new numbers. You'd play a second round. You do the same thing for the third round. At the end of the third round, depending on how much heat is left, you'll just get some type of rating that doesn't really mean anything. It's more about the experience and less about, there's no really win-loss condition here. So that's what you do. You play 3 completely different rounds. Each round has different words and has different numbers that you're getting. And at the end, we'll see how you do. Now, before I get to the moment you've been waiting for, I want to let you know that Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, being the one table to rule them all, with Game Toppers, leg kits, dining covers, and premium game mats, and more. Their 5.0 Kickstarter is live now, and they found a way to deflate prices to pre-pandemic levels without sacrificing their quality brand. Now, in some cases, even by $200 or more, dropping the prices of shipping by as much as 50%, saving another $100 plus. Check out the new Ryan Lockett and Amber Sharf mats. Go to GameToppersLLC.com to learn more. Yeah, as I mentioned, this game was on my top 5 most anticipated games for Origins because my bias is coming in here. I love word association games. I like cooperative games. And so I was really excited about this because it seemed like it's similar to some other ones, but yet different. So let's talk about it all and then how it compares to some of these other games in this genre as well. So first thing I like is in the game, it has just some fun art, and from what I gather, the artist actually does like graphic novels and such, and it really comes through that way because the characters are just fun to look at. Well done art there on the table. This is like as if Codenames Duet and So Clover, 2 popular games in this genre, had a baby, because it is similar to both of those in different ways. More about comparisons about that a little bit later, but even to be in the same breath as that tells you that this game is pretty darn good. Everyone gets to be the clue giver and the guesser, so that's kind of a little different in this one. Sure, you can do that in So Clover as well, but here you're doing it alone. So everyone gets to do both sides, where in Codenames, basically there's one clue giver on each side, and then everyone else is just the guesser. Where here you'll get to do both, but you're doing both pretty much all by yourself, where in So Clover you do all the guessing sort of together, and you're talking it through together, and here you're doing it all by yourself. So it's almost like a solo experience, even though you're working together, which is kind of interesting. That's what makes it different. I like that it takes the spotlight off clue givers, because a lot of times, in these games like Codenames, where someone's waiting for the clue giver and it's putting pressure on them and they can't come up with a good clue, and sometimes they feel embarrassed, and sometimes they they feel bad that the spotlight's on them. In this, everyone's doing it simultaneously. And it's not as bad. Sure, some people can take longer than others, and sometimes you might be waiting for someone, but it's not nearly as bad or as big of a spotlight. So if you liked sort of Codename style games, but you didn't like giving clues because you felt like you were like on stage or in the spotlight, this takes that off, takes that problem off, which I think is a good interesting twist to this genre. There's no deliberation when you're guessing. Much like Codenames and Codenames Duet and like So Clover, everyone is sort of talking through things together, and that provides a great experience. Sometimes you just want to be able to figure it out on your own, and that's what this does. And so it is a positive here that for some people, this is going to be better than those other games, because they're like, well, you know what? I don't want to be, first of all, the deliberation in So Clover can really drag the game down sometimes. And sometimes even in both of those games. So it keeps things faster. You're not having to bounce ideas off. People don't feel like they're getting railroaded or overpowered by people that are more, have a bigger personality or a louder voice. So it's similar to the other ones, but yet it's still different enough that if you didn't like those other games, I think this provides things that is better for some types of players for sure. I like that it's even good with low player counts. This game is great at 2 players. In So Clover, I almost only play 2 players because it gets too long as you have too many people as you're going through everybody's thing one at a time. This game plays great with 2 players and lower player counts. If I were to come up with a quote with this, it's like, if you like cooperative word associating games, but you wanted your thoughts and opinions to not be overrun by groupthink, or powerful personalities, then this is the game for you. I mean, that's how I feel with this game. It's, again, very similar to those, but let me talk about some things that I thought might be negatives for some people, and then I'll compare a little bit more with Soul Clover and Codenames Duet. So all these, there's so many cooperative games out there, Just One and Soul Clover and all these things, where it's cooperative and you finish, and it's more about an experience or an activity, because it's like, you got this many points, you did well, try again next time. I don't really like those. That's one thing I love about Codenames, is like it's tense because it's really hard to win that game, and there are very clear win-loss conditions. These whole like, oh, you scored 5 points, you guys did good, try better next time. I hate those. This has that, but we basically play, hey, if you didn't do perfect, you didn't get all the heat out, you lost. The game's hard. Get over it, right? So it takes the tenseness away with the way the scoring stuff does. But again, it's more about the experience and less about winning, but still it would be nice to add some little tension there. Sometimes there's downtime waiting for others to finish. So especially in a larger game, everyone might be waiting for that last player. Maybe they could fix that by saying, hey, once there's only one player remaining, meaning the second to last player has finished, start a 1-minute timer. Give that person 1 more minute to finish. Because there's been times where sometimes you just get a tough draw. It's really hard to come up with a clue. But sitting there for 7 minutes instead of 5 isn't really going to make a difference. So let's get going. The higher player counts are definitely more challenging, and they're way more brain burning. And it's way harder to do well in these. Now, granted, all of the amount of heats that you have at the different player counts exactly equal to if you have 2 perfect rounds, you win. And that's not necessarily right, in my opinion, because it's a lot harder to have a perfect round in the higher player counts, and it's a lot easier to get tripped up. And once you mess one person's answer up, you've probably confounded that error with somebody else's, which means you confound it with somebody else's, which means usually if you have one small error, it compounds itself and gets worse and worse and really makes it almost so you can't get your perpetrator. So the game is much harder with the higher player counts. And that's just the way it is. So I like this game with the lower play counts, not because it's not as hard, but because it's faster, it's quicker, and it's one little error doesn't screw up your entire round. And so I like the game with smaller player counts, but it worked fine with 6. I think, I played it with the max player count. It's fine. It's just I like the smaller player count better because I think it scales better. Now, before I get into comparisons, overall I really enjoyed the game. I love Soul Clover. I love Codenames Duet. Codenames Duet is in my top 10 of all time. This game is very good, and it offers something very similar to those, but also different. So I think it has a place. I don't feel like it's replaced any of these. If any of them, maybe Soul Clover, just because I only really play that game with 2, and I like this one best with 2, and this one's smaller. It can fit in my pocket when I take it out. I don't know. I like them really both. I don't think one really replaces another, but if so, I think this would replace Soul Clover for me. But the main, again, the biggest thing is I still like Codenames Duet the best, but it's so similar in so many ways, but yet it's so different, and it's really hard to kind of put words to that. But if you liked Codenames Duet and you liked Soul Clover, you're likely going to like this. If you didn't like those for some of the reasons I mentioned earlier, maybe you'll like this one because it does do things differently. So that's sort of how it ranks. Codenames Duet's still my favorite. I like Soul Clover a lot, but I think I might like this one a little bit more. And it's faster, easier to teach, all that sort of stuff. So there you have it. That's my review of Alibis. This is the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games by helping you on the next one you love.